topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chucky Obia.
Yes, this is Chucky, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to moderate today's discussion with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how are you?
Good, Chucky. How was your weekend?
It's nice. Yeah,
excellent. Excellent. Well, as Chucky said, my name is Michael Barbarita, President of Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. And business owners hire us to double their profit through implementing business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. And our vision is to ensure that overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and the life that they desire. Our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploiting their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. The show Powerful Business Strategies in the book of the same name is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. And so with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator for the show, Chucky Obia.
Michael, it's remarkable that you talk about building a meaningful legacy, because the topic today is just quite on point as it relates to that. So the topic today is mastering the sales process, why traditional selling doesn't work anymore. So really energized to pick up on all the insights, Michael, that you've prepared for us. So look, a quick disclaimer, folks, before we get started. We know there are a number of business leaders and owners listening coast to coast. Michael and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and I currently serve as the managing director of business development for Vedder Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, it's truly an honor to collaborate with Michael to moderate business roundtables and document insights from those roundtables as part of our book, Powerful Business Strategies. But please note that the views expressed on this show are personal views based on those successful experiences with business owners in the roundtables. And look, our mission is to ensure that you get access to strategic insights and implementation steps that the competition isn't doing. So with that, I want to toss it back over to Michael.
Thank you, Chucky. Before I get into the 1-minute inspirational opening, I have a little tidbit that I'd like to share that I thought about over the weekend. And I forgot that I even did this. Back in the 80s, one of the things that I did, because we spent $500,000 a year on advertising, and at the time, of course, it was just radio and newspaper and direct mail. But what we did was we set up a separate company that was an advertising agency. And the reason why we did that is we got a 15% commission. If an advertising agency books the commercials, and by the way, this can happen on Facebook as well, I believe. I'm pretty sure that this is also happening there, and any online advertising. But at the time, at least, when we booked any type of commercials under our advertising agency, we received a 15% commission. And so we got our $500,000 of advertising all discounted at 15% because we used an advertising agency to book the ads and to book all the marketing. And so our advertising would have been $590,000 if we didn't do this. We actually saved $90,000 by booking, just coming up with a shell of a company, by the way. At the time it was called Able Advertising Agency, and just by using that shell of a company to book the advertising, we got a 50% discount. So I just wanted to throw that out there for those out there that are doing a lot of advertising and might be able to find a way to make it less expensive. So in my 1 minute inspirational opening today, to every business owner listening right now, this moment is for you. In a world where so many choose the safer path, you choose to be bold. You're the ones who wake up early and stay up late, not because someone told you to, but because that dream inside you demands it. Every day you carry the weight of payroll decisions and countless responsibilities on your shoulders. Yet you keep moving forward. You're not just running a business. You're creating opportunities, building futures, and shaping communities. And when others see these problems, you see possibilities. And when they see roadblocks, you find detours. And when they say it can't be done, you find a way. The world may not always see the sacrifices you make, the risks you take, or the sleepless nights that you endure, but we see you. We see your courage, your resilience, your unwavering determination. You're not just entrepreneurs, you're pioneers, innovators, and the backbone of our economy. So today, take a moment to recognize your own strength. Remember that your journey, with all of its challenges and victories, is making a difference. Keep pushing forward, keep dreaming bigger, keep breaking barriers, because what you do matters, not just to your business, but to every life you touch through it. You are the dreamers who dare to do, and for that, we honor you.
Michael, that is so inspirational.
Great, thank you, Chucky. So every transformation in business history has created both winners and losers, and right now we're experiencing the biggest shift in sales methodology since the invention of the telephone. And the old ways of selling, quite frankly, are dying. But this isn't bad news, it's an opportunity. And the businesses that adapt to this new reality aren't just surviving, they're thriving. And they're closing bigger deals with higher profit margins in less time. Today, you'll learn exactly how to be one of these winners. And the future of sales isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. And by the end of this show, you'll know exactly how to make this change in your business. So today, we're tackling a critical issue that's affecting every business. Why traditional selling doesn't work anymore and what you need to do about it. So let me share some startling statistics. Traditional sales approaches are now failing at an unprecedented rate. Cold calling success rates have dropped below 1%. Email response rates have plummeted by 47% in the last 5 years. Traditional sales presentations are being ignored or rejected at historic levels. But here's what's interesting. While most businesses are struggling with sales, a small group of companies are experiencing record growth. They're closing deals faster at higher prices with less resistance. Well, what's their secret? Well, they've recognized and adapted to 3 fundamental shifts in the marketplace. One is I call the power shift. These are buyers now have more information and options than ever before. Second is the trust revolution. Traditional sales tactics are now actively destroying trust. And third is the value evolution. What customers consider valuable has fundamentally changed. So today, I'm going to show you a sales framework, quite frankly, a revolutionary or new approach that's certainly something to consider. And we'll cover why traditional sales techniques are actually hurting your business. We'll cover the exact process top performers are using to close deals. We'll cover how to change your sales approach without losing momentum. And we'll cover specific strategies for increasing both closing rates and profit margins. But most importantly, you'll learn how to implement these changes in your business immediately without disrupting your current sales operations. And this isn't theory, it's proven methodology that's already working in business today. So let's start by understanding exactly why traditional sales approaches are failing and what's replacing them. Stay tuned with that pen and paper as we break down exactly how to implement this in your business. And if you're driving, don't worry, you can catch this episode again at our podcast on powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. So to understand why traditional selling is failing, we need to examine the three major shifts that have changed the sales landscape. More importantly, we need to understand how to adapt to these changes. So let's look at each shift in detail. So the power shift, as I mentioned, traditional selling was based on information asymmetry, and the salesperson knew more than the buyer. Today, customers often know more about your product, your competitors, and your industry than your sales team does. They've done their research before they speak with you and before they speak with the sales team. Second, the trust revolution. Traditional sales techniques were designed to control the conversation and lead customers to the predetermined conclusion. Today, these same techniques are instant trust killers because customers recognize and reject manipulation. And third, the value evolution. Traditional selling focused on features and benefits. Today's customers are looking for something entirely different. They want insight, expertise, and strategic value. So let me share a quick case study that perfectly illustrates these shifts and how to adapt to them. So a B2B equipment supplier was struggling with declining sales despite having a strong product line and competitive prices. Their traditional sales approach, cold calling, feature-based presentations, and aggressive follow-up was producing diminishing returns. Here's what they discovered when they analyzed their sales process. Once again, they have the data. They went out, they figured they have the math and the data to be able to make better decisions. Something we business owners have to do if we're going to make better business decisions in this 21st century modern business era that we live in. So here's what they discovered when they analyzed their sales process. 82% of prospects had already researched their products before contact. 91% viewed traditional sales presentations as a waste of time. That was their perception. 76% wanted insights about their industry, not product information. So this company implemented what they called the Insight First framework. And so step one of this framework was knowledge development. They created detailed industry analysis reports. They developed specific insights for each market segment, and they built a database of industry-specific challenges and solutions that the salespeople can draw from. Step two, communication transformation or communication changes. They replaced cold calls with insight-based outreach. They changed sales presentations into strategic consultations, and they developed industry-specific value propositions. So essentially here, like for example, changing sales presentations into strategic consultations, that was more specific industry insight. And then step three was process redesign. They implemented a consultative discovery process. They created value-based proposal templates based around this industry insight. And they developed return on investment calculation tools. And the results were pretty significant. The close rate increased from 12% to 37%. Their average deal size grew by 64%. And the sales cycle shortened by 41%. The key insight, they stopped selling and started solving problems. Ooh, position of market dominance. And they converted their sales team from product experts into industry experts. Now, let me take a deeper dive into the technical aspects of this change, because the equipment supplier developed a knowledge value matrix, which was a systematic approach to changing the interaction. So number one was industry knowledge depth. So they created a 4-tier knowledge classification system. That the first tier had basic industry knowledge, second, operational expertise, third, strategic insight, and fourth, future trends analysis. And for each tier, they developed specific knowledge requirements and testing protocols. And the sales team members had to demonstrate proficiency at each level before advancing. So this was almost like a built-in training program. The second was value communication framework. They developed a structured approach to value communication where they had problem quantification, direct cost impact, indirect cost impact, operational cost analysis, and risk assessment metrics. And inside this value communication framework, they also did solution modeling, which include ROI calculation templates and risk mitigation strategies. And then they developed a digital integration system where they created a digital infrastructure to support this new approach. And then they had all the performance metrics. And so this technical infrastructure allowed them to systemize their new approach and make it repeatable across their entire sales organization. Chucky, are there any questions from the audience?
Michael, look, you've struck a chord with a number of the insights that you've shared thus far. And yes, we do have quite a few questions. Let's go with this one. So, Michael, look, many of our listeners are probably wondering about their current sales team, right? So the concept of the death of the traditional selling process. Now, how would you advise that they transition their traditional salespeople into this new approach without losing their top and their best performers?
Okay, that's a genius question. That's great. The key is to start with the top performers and let them lead by example. In the B2B equipment supplier case study we discussed, they began by just having their best salespeople create small wins using the new approach. Everything's a process. And these early successes created natural momentum, and they found that their top performers actually embraced the change because it gave them a competitive advantage. And the key is showing them how the new approach helps them close bigger deals with less resistance. And actually, one of their top salespeople who they tested this with went from 15% close rate to 42% in just 60 days. And so it was really productive. I keep saying the same thing with respect to all of these strategies that we talk about, is that what great advantage that we business owners have is that we get to test these things. And that's exactly what this equipment supplier did. They tested all of these theories that they had, and they were able to do it with just one or two of their top salespeople. Any other questions, Chucky?
Yes. So we've got one here, and this has to do with the shift in sales. So you talk about the three major shifts in sales: the power shift, the trust revolution, and then the value evolution. Look, which of these do you think businesses will struggle with the most?
From our experience, it's the trust revolution. And that's the most challenging. Yeah, it requires the deepest mindset change. Many salespeople have been trained to control the conversation. But today, that approach destroys trust. The solution is to shift from a presentation mindset to an exploration mindset. For example, one company replaced their standard pitch deck with what they call insight conversations, sharing, once again, industry-specific data and trends, then exploring implications together with the prospect, and their sales cycle actually shortened by 40% because they built trust faster. The other thing is that the position of market dominance, by creating one, that generates trust because you're identifying the problem to the customer before they have to bring it up. And that is a real enforcement of trust. Well, thank you for the questions, Chucky. And we're going to break 90 seconds for a quick commercial.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. And so today we're talking about why traditional selling is failing and the new sales methodologies that should be implemented. So now that we understand, and the first segment was why traditional selling is failing, let's explore the new methodology that's replacing it. And we call this the value framework, and it's actually a mnemonic, VALUE. The V is for vision, the A is for authority, the L is for learning, the U is for understanding, and the E is for execution. Now, let me break down each component and then share a case study of how this works in practice. So the vision is, instead of pushing products, you need to help customers envision a better future. This means understanding their strategic objectives and showing you how you can achieve them, or showing the prospect how they can achieve them. Authority. Position yourself as that industry expert, not just a product expert. Share insights, trends, and strategic perspectives that demonstrate your expertise. The L is for learning. Make your sales process a mutual learning experience. You learn about their business while teaching them new ways to think about their challenges. U is for understanding. So focus on understanding the customer's entire ecosystem, not just their immediate needs. This allows you to identify opportunities that they might have missed. And then the E for execution. Create a clear, actionable path from their current state to their desired future state. So let me go through the methodology again. It's called Value Framework, and it's the new sales methodology. V is for vision, A is for authority, L is for learning, U is for understanding, and E for execution. So let me share a case study of how this works in practice. So a traditional office equipment dealer sales team was using the standard approach, the features, advantages, and benefits, and competitive pricing. Their close rate was 15% and profit margins were shrinking. They then implemented the value framework. So for vision, they created detailed future state analysis for each prospect to help clients visualize their potential and create emotional buy-in. Second, under vision, they developed industry-specific roadmaps to demonstrate clear and achievable paths to success tailored to each industry. And then the third bullet under vision is they built visualization tools for return on investment and outcomes to make abstract benefits tangible and quantifiable for decision makers. Then with respect to authority, they published industry insight reports to establish credibility and demonstrate deep industry expertise. So this is whether it was on a blog or some type of newsletter. They created educational content to position the company as a thought leader and trusted advisor. And they developed benchmark databases to provide concrete evidence and comparative data for decision support. Under learning, they implemented structured discovery processes to uncover hidden opportunities and challenges systematically. They created knowledge-sharing workshops to facilitate mutual understanding and build collaborative relationships. They developed collaborative planning tools to engage clients in the solution development process and ensure buy-in. Then from an understanding perspective, VALU, this is the U in understanding, built comprehensive needs assessment tools to identify both stated and unstated client requirements. And then they created an ecosystem mapping process to understand how changes impact the entire client organization. And they developed an impact analysis framework to quantify the ripple effects of proposed solutions across the business. Then with respect to the execution, they created detailed implementation roadmaps to provide clear, actionable steps for solution deployment. They developed risk mitigation strategies to address concerns proactively and build confidence in the solution. And then they built progress tracking systems to ensure accountability and demonstrate ongoing value creation. So there was a lot of insight into the industry here, whether it was sharing information through blogging or newsletters or internally to help train the salespeople. And the result after 6 months is their close rate increased 43%, their average deal size went up 87%, profit margins improved by 32%, and customer retention increased to 94%. And the key was moving from a transactional focused approach to a change focused approach, where it was basically industry focused, I think would be a better word for that. And so, Chucky, any questions from the audience?
Yeah, so it's funny, you're getting some electronic head nods on some of those points. There is one kind of chuckle-worthy point here. Michael, we hope there's no spelling bee pop quizzes with all these mnemonics, right?
That's right.
But look, really important question. I think probably a challenging question. When implementing the value framework, what a number of business owners are wondering is, Michael, which of those components would show the fastest impact on results?
The authority component. You see, typically that shows the quickest return, Chucky. When the office equipment company implemented the framework, they saw immediate results from their industry insight reports. And a single report on office automation trends generated 47 qualified leads in the first week. Why? Well, because it positioned them as the experts rather than the vendor.
Yeah.
And the key is sharing insights that help prospects think differently about their challenges. And this builds the trust and credibility before you ever discuss your product or service.
Yeah,
So
I want to pick up on your point, Michael, about thinking differently, right? And you said that as it relates to prospects. Now, the internal sales team would also have to think differently. So, question for you related to this, like how would businesses need to adjust their compensation models to support this new methodology?
Well, this is crucial, Chucky, because traditional commission-only structures often work against this approach because they encourage short-term thinking.
Yes.
What we have recommended is a three-part compensation model: base salary for stability, commission for results, and a value bonus tied to customer success metrics. For example, the office equipment company added a quarterly bonus based on customer implementation success rates. So if whatever was suggested worked famously for that client, then there would be a quarterly bonus. And this aligned with sales team's interest with long-term customer outcomes, resulting in that 94% customer retention I talked about.
Remarkable.
Thank you, Chucky. Okay, and so before I continue with our discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon: your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. So in this final segment, we're going to focus on how to implement these new sales methodologies without disrupting your current revenue. And this is crucial because many businesses fail not because the new approach didn't work, but because they struggle with the transition. And we talked about earlier, one of the great questions that we had earlier was, how do you go about implementing this? And we say you start with the top salespeople and test it. Got to test this thing. And so in this particular segment, we'll use a 6-phase implementation framework. So here's the framework with purpose statements for each point. So the first part of the 6-phase implementation framework to implement this new sales approach is, number one, the assessment phase. So you evaluate your current sales process to establish a clear picture of existing methodologies and their effectiveness. You identify gaps and opportunities to pinpoint specific areas where improvement will yield the highest returns. And then you'll measure baseline metrics to create benchmarks for measuring improvement in ROI. Once again, we're tracking metrics in order to improve our decision-making as business owners. Second, planning. So design new processes to create structured, repeatable systems that align with business goals, and then create training materials to ensure consistent knowledge transfer and skill development. Develop transition timeline to establish realistic milestones and manage change without disrupting revenue. The third, and once again, this is that 6-phase implementation framework. The third step is pilot. Well, select that test group to validate new approaches with minimal risk to overall operations. Implement new methods to test processes in real-world conditions and gather practical feedback. And then monitor results to track effectiveness and identify early implementation challenges. The fourth step of the framework is refinement. Analyze pilot results to understand what's working and what needs modification. Make necessary adjustments to optimize processes based on real-world feedback before full deployment, that testing again. Prepare for full rollout to create a scalable implementation plan based on pilot learnings. And then the implementation is the fifth leg of this process, and it's you train the full team to ensure all team members are equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge, and you deploy new tools to provide resources and support systems for successful execution, and then monitor the progress to track adoption rates and identify any implementation changes. And the sixth and final step of this framework is optimization. So you measure the results to quantify the impact of the changes and validate the return on investment. You make adjustments to fine-tune processes based on organization-wide feedback, and you scale successful elements. You take those successful elements and you replicate winning strategies across the entire organization. So let me share a quick case study of how this works in practice. So a mid-sized insurance broker needed to change their sales process, but couldn't disrupt their $12 million annual revenue stream. So here's how they implemented the transition. So during the assessment phase, they analyzed about 2,300 sales transactions, identified 7 critical process gaps. Then they established baseline metrics: 22% closing rate, $4,800 average policy value, 68-day average sales cycle. Then in the planning phase, they created new sales playbooks and developed training modules and built implementation timelines. In the pilot phase, they selected 5 top performers and implemented new methods. They ran a 90-day test period. I believe they had about, I think it was 12 to 15 salespeople, or in the insurance industry, they call producers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they selected the top 5 performers to pilot this thing. And then the refinement phase, as they analyzed pilot results, they made 12 process adjustments based on those results, and then updated the training manuals. Once again, relying on the data to make the decisions. Implementation phase, it was that they trained the remaining team and they developed new CRM tools and implemented weekly coaching. And then optimization phase, they measured the key metrics, made ongoing adjustments, and scaled successful elements. And the results after full implementation, their close rate increased to 41%. Their average policy value went from, I think it was 4,300 to 7,200. Their sales cycle reduced by 42 days, and their revenue grew to 18.7 million. So it's quite a change.
Wow.
But just implementing this new sales framework, and I got to tell you, it's really important. But the thing about it is if you're not analyzing data along the way, you're going to be a blind man without a cane. Making so. Any questions from the audience on this, Chucky?
Michael, it's quite interesting, right? I think there's quite a bit of energy from business owners and the listeners coast to coast to activate implementation on this. So I'll synthesize a couple of quick questions here. So it seems like a recurring question is this idea of how to implement. So Michael, question for you. When implementing these changes, what's a typical timeline before business owners start to really see significant results?
Well, of course, the standard answer I have to give, the timeline varies by organization size, but using the 6-phase implementation framework, I think you can expect to see initial results in somewhere between 45 to 60 days, at least starting to get the data to be able to, start to expand it or to make the necessary adjustments. I mean, the insurance company, which we discussed a little earlier, saw their first significant improvement during their pilot phase. And they saw a 27% increase in close rates within the first 6 weeks. And the key is to focus on quick wins early. Start with a small group, get some victories, and use that momentum to drive broader adoption. And then full implementation usually takes somewhere between 4 to 6 months once you get everybody on board, everybody trained. But you should be seeing progressive improvements throughout that period.
I want to pick up on that phrase, progressive improvement, right? Because I think that goes to the heart of what could stop that progress. What do you see as the biggest mistake, Michael, that companies make during the implementation phase?
Well, trying to do everything at once, Chucky. This overwhelms the sales team. It disrupts the revenue flow, the current revenue flow. Instead, we recommend we use that 20% rule. Change no more than 20% of your sales process at a time. And the insurance company started by changing their initial prospect conversation approach. And once that was working, they then moved to the next phase. So this measured approach allowed them to maintain revenue while transforming their sales process. And they actually grew revenue during the transition because each small change produced incremental improvements. And those incremental improvements started to compound on each other. Very similar that we talk about when we talk about our 80-20 rule and the most important things that business owners need to focus on.
The power of the compound effect, right, Michael?
There you go. Chuck, I was wondering if you had any compliments today.
We do, absolutely. And Michael, look, this continues to grow week in and week out. So we have business leaders coast to coast that we want to spotlight as part of our business complement segment. So the first is Tyler Marshall. He is a founder and CEO of EYC Labs. And Michael, get this, they are blazing the trail in global agri-tech. EYC Labs is a go-to design and engineering partner for agriculture and agriculture adjacent business operations. Their team is 100% in-house with experience across the board, hardware, software, industrial, and mechanical. In fact, you could learn a little bit more about EYC Labs, in fact, a lot more, by visiting the website eyclabs.com. Mike, I think you might appreciate this next business compliment. So this is Amanda Severs. She is with First Buckeye Landscapers LLC, and she also recently launched, out of her passion, a small business coaching program to really impact and positively support business owners in her community. So it's really incredible.
Wow.
Here's why we believe Amanda is just so inspirational. She is committed to supporting other business owners to ensure that they could live a more balanced life and break free from the chaos that causes burnout in business. And Michael, this goes to your opening inspiration.
Yes, that's
statement.
right.
It really does. You could follow Amanda at Simply Amanda Severs on Instagram. That's Simply Amanda Severs on Instagram. Now, the next business owner is Brian Gibbs. Brian is with Brian Gibbs and Associates LLC. And here's what their commitment revolves around: to provide impactful AI coaching for small businesses across the country. And if you're interested and you're listening to this, you could learn a little bit more about Brian Gibbs and Associates through their website. It's very simple, briangibbs.com. And here's part of their commitment. You will have the opportunity to not just learn ideas, but to share ideas and best practices with other business owners. And Michael, last but not least here, Bambi Weevil with Accelerant. And Bambi has over a decade of experience with marketing, sales, PR, and event production across multiple industries. And here's her mission statement. She truly works to advance strategic partnerships. In fact, this is part of the work that she's doing for Accelerant, which is a trusted QuickBooks solutions provider. Michael, I believe you know one or two things about QuickBooks, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Given your excellent and strategic CFO background. And Michael, look, part of the work that they do at Accelerant is just to help business owners achieve higher profits and improve their cash flow. So to sum it up, one of the things that we admire about the business complement segment is that these business leaders are really coast to coast, are doing important work. And Michael, they are problem solvers, as you alluded to earlier.
Yes,
they're
great.
using their business experience to solve problems. So with that, I'll toss it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chucky. That was outstanding. So as we wrap up today's episode of Powerful Business Strategies, let's just recap the key points about changing your sales process. So first, understand why traditional selling is failing. So the power shift to inform buyers. Second was the trust revolution. Third was the value evolution. Second, implement the value framework. So that's vision to help customers see a better future. Authority, position yourself as an industry expert, not just a product expert. Learning, create mutual learning experiences. Understanding, comprehend the entire ecosystem, not just components of it. And then execution, create clear action paths. And then third, use the 6-phase implementation framework: assessment, planning, pilot, refinement, implementation, and optimization. Here's why this matters more than ever. You know, the gap between high-performing sales organizations and everyone else is widening rapidly, getting wider and wider. And the companies that adapt to this new reality aren't just surviving, they're thriving. And they're closing bigger deals with higher profit margins and less time. So your immediate action step should be assess your current sales process against the frameworks that we discussed today. Second, you should identify your biggest gaps and opportunities. And third, create a pilot program to test these approaches. And remember, this isn't about throwing out everything you know about sales. It's about evolving your approach to match today's reality. The fundamentals of human psychology haven't changed, but the context in which we operate has changed dramatically. And before we sign off today, I want to talk about, real quickly, the 80-20 rule and how it applies to business, because we talked about it earlier with the insurance company and the 20%. And so Chucky and I, in our book, Powerful Business Strategies, have identified 7 areas that we call the 7-step pathway to profit formula. And in this formula, and in these 7 steps, this represents 20% of your activities that will drive 80% of your revenue. It's an incredible leveraging tool. Now, we had a whole show about it, so you can go to powerfulbusinessstrategies.com and look up the show on the 7-step pathway to profit formula. But I wanted to just quickly review it again in the time that we have remaining, because it's important, and it helps business owners leverage their time, but it also helps them understand what really drives that revenue. So the 7 steps is, number 1, getting leads, and getting quality leads, not just the Mickey Mouse leads, but quality leads. Second is what we call conversions, and that's not a conversion to a sale. That's a conversion into your sales process, whatever that is. It could be a sales presentation. It could be some type of industry impact presentation that we talked about here today. So that's conversion. So there's always a next step. And so the next step from a lead is to the conversion process, whatever that is for your company, and then the closing rate. So it's leads, conversions, that's step 2 of the 7-step pathway to profit formula. Step 3 is closing rates. What are your closing rates? And notice now we're getting into managing the data. You know, what is your conversion from lead to conversion? What is the rate of conversion to closing? And so those are the first 3. The 4th is client retention. And this is quite frankly, this is an area that we business owners really have neglected, quite frankly. And it's just as important. And you know, when we business owners get a client, we automatically think we get to keep them by default, where nothing could be further from the truth. And so client retention and focusing on that as part of the 7-step pathway to profit is really important to maintain the revenue that you have. And then the next step in the process is average dollar per sale. This is something that we business owners need to keep track of. We need to understand every time we make a sale, what is our average order value? So all of the sales that have been made divided by the number of sales, it gives you your average order value, and you need to understand whether that's rising or declining, and then you can do something about it. Once again, though, you have to have the data. So average dollar per sale. Then frequency of sale is how often you're able to sell to an existing customer. So the more you can sell to an existing customer, obviously the more revenue you generate. And the reason why it's important to focus on it is because there's literally a gold mine in your existing customer base if you can sell them other products or services that you provide. And then finally, as business owners, we always have to control our costs. So, and that's both fixed costs, which are the costs that occur every month at the same rate, or variable costs, which are associated with and variable to the sales of your company. So once again, the 7-step pathway to profit formula is, number 1, focus on leads, conversions, closing rates, client retention, average dollar per sale, frequency of sale, and costs. So to get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategies, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chucky Obio, my name is Michael Barbarita. And remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chucky Obio.